The mystery that leaves millions without an answer. Where did Cain's wife come from? Get ready to discover one of the most shocking revelations in the Holy Scriptures. Could there have been a secret civilization beyond Adam and Eve? This question has tormented scholars for millennia, fueling conspiracy theories and leaving believers in complete confusion. Today we will demolish all myths and reveal the absolute truth that will change your understanding of human origins forever. This revelation will shatter paradigms you have carried for years and expose secrets that few dare to discuss. Stay until the end, because the answer will leave you speechless. And don't forget to hit the bell, so you won't miss any biblical mystery we uncover here. The revelation that will change your view of humanity. Prepare your mind for an extraordinary journey through the deepest biblical mysteries. As the Holy Scriptures reveal, the Almighty shaped the first human, Adam, from the dust of the ground, breathing into him the divine breath of life. Then, during a supernatural deep sleep, he took a rib to form Eve, the first woman. This creative act was not only a historical moment, but the foundation of all subsequent human existence. The divine precision in every detail demonstrates a meticulously designed plan that transcends our limited understanding. If you are enjoying these revelations, smash that like button right now so more people can discover these life-changing truths. The divine blessing echoed, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it," Genesis 1:28. This heavenly command granted them the procreative power to establish the entire human lineage. The divine mandate was not a mere suggestion, but a sacred commission that would define the destiny of billions of future human beings. Every word spoken by the Creator carried the weight of eternity and the responsibility of populating an entire planet. Share this video with someone who needs to know these fundamental truths about our origin. Maximum attention. The Scriptures are crystal clear. All of humanity descends exclusively from this primordial couple. There is absolutely no scriptural evidence of any parallel human lineages, neither before nor after. God himself declares, "From one blood he made all the nations of men to dwell on all the face of the earth." Acts 17:26. This divine declaration completely destroys any theory of multiple human origins or separate evolutionary races. The unity of the human family is established in the very words of the Creator, confirming our universal brotherhood. Comment below. Did you already know this biblical truth about the unity of mankind? The answer that will completely shock you. Explosive revelation. Cain's wife was his very own sister. Yes, you heard that right. All of Adam and Eve's descendants married brothers and sisters. Although this may sound disturbing by contemporary standards, it was the only alternative to fulfill the divine command to populate the earth. This reality challenges our modern mindset, but it was absolutely necessary in the primordial historical context. The absence of other marital options was not a flaw in the divine plan, but a perfect strategy to establish the human race. Did this revelation surprise you? Leave a comment sharing your reaction to this discovery. In those ancient times, there were no legal restrictions against unions between close relatives, nor genetic risks, because the genetic code of Adam and Eve was absolutely perfect, without mutations or flaws. The original genetic purity allowed these unions without the devastating consequences we see today. Every cell, every chromosome, every DNA sequence reflected the perfection of divine creation before the corruption of sin. If you are learning something new, turn on notifications so you don't miss any biblical revelations we share. The hidden secret of the children of Adam and Eve. The Scriptures document that Adam and Eve bore numerous sons and daughters beyond Cain and Abel. Genesis 5:4 reveals, "The days of Adam after he fathered Seth were 800 years, and he had sons and daughters." Estimates suggest at least 9 descendants, possibly dozens more. The extraordinary longevity of the first humans allowed for numerous generations that today we would consider impossible. Each son and daughter represented an expansion of the divine plan to populate the whole earth with blessed descendants. Subscribe to the channel right now, because we are going to explore more secrets about the longevity of the ancient patriarchs. Among this numerous offspring, Cain found his companion fathering Enoch and establishing a city with that name, Genesis 4:17. In this way, the Adamic lineage expanded, completely eliminating any theory about alternative human races. The construction of the first human city marks a crucial moment in civilization, demonstrating intellectual and organizational capacities from the earliest generations. The name Enoch, given both to the son and to the city, symbolizes the continuity and permanent establishment of the human family. How amazing it is to discover how our civilization began. Share this knowledge with your friends. The radical transformation. When everything changed. Historical turning point. Why did incest later become forbidden if it was initially necessary? The answer lies in the progressive deterioration of the human condition. As sin and corruption spread globally, they also affected human biological nature. DNA began to develop mutations and genetic defects passed down through generations, especially aggravated in consanguineous unions. This genetic degradation represents one of the most devastating consequences of mankind's moral fall. Each successive generation accumulated more imperfections, creating increasing risks for the health of descendants from unions between close relatives. Do you see how sin even affected our biology? Leave a like if this explanation is clarifying your doubts. What was initially pure and perfect gradually became corrupted, requiring changes in divine guidelines to protect humanity. This transformation did not happen instantly, but over generations as human wickedness intensified and spread across the earth. Divine wisdom anticipated these problems and prepared legislative solutions for future moments when they would become necessary. Comment below. Do you realize how God always has a perfect plan for every situation? The divine laws that changed history. Recognizing this transformation, God established specific regulations through Moses in Leviticus 18, declaring, "None of you shall approach any blood relative to uncover his nakedness. I am the Lord." Leviticus 18:6. These divine guidelines listed in detail the degrees of kinship prohibited: parents, children, siblings, uncles, nieces, in-laws, brothers and sisters-in-law, among others. Violations were considered abominations punished with community exclusion. The specificity of these laws demonstrates God's care in protecting both the physical health and moral holiness of his chosen people. Each prohibition had scientific foundations that only recently modern genetics has begun to fully understand. If you are impressed by God's foreseen wisdom, share this video so that others may also discover it. These regulations also aim to distinguish the people of Israel from the depraved practices of surrounding nations, establishing higher moral standards. Marital purity was not only a matter of health, but a reflection of divine holiness that should characterize the covenant people. The severe consequences for violations demonstrated the seriousness with which God regarded these transgressions in the post-fall context. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next video about purity laws in the Old Testament. Controversial biblical cases. Explained in-depth analysis of marriages between relatives in the scriptures: Abraham and Sarah, union between half-siblings before the Levitical laws, approved by God. Isaac and Rebekah, marriage between cousins, permitted by divine law. Jacob with Leah and Rachel, unions with cousins, accepted in the historical context. Amram and Jochebed, uncle-niece, technically incestuous, but God showed mercy by raising up Moses' Lot and his daughters, completely condemned, resulting in enemy nations, Moab and Ammon, Amnon and Tamar, abominable violation, resulting in family tragedy. Each case demonstrates different circumstances and consequences, revealing God's perfect justice and mercy in complex situations. Divine approval or condemnation depended not only on the act itself, but on the motivations, historical context, and consequences for the redemptive plan. Which of these cases caught your attention the most? Tell us your opinion in the comments. These biblical examples do not justify similar behavior today, but illustrate how God works through imperfect situations to fulfill his eternal purposes. Divine grace can transform even the most complicated circumstances into instruments of blessing and redemption. The biblical story does not hide human flaws, but shows how God uses them in his greater plan. If you see how God uses difficult situations for his purposes, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. The devastating effects revealed. Modern incest produces severe genetic consequences: hemophilia, cystic fibrosis, albinism, Down syndrome, among other congenital conditions that seriously compromise quality of life or cause premature death. These conditions result from the combination of defective recessive genes that are more likely to manifest when both parents share similar genetic material. Modern science fully confirms the wisdom of the biblical laws established millennia before the discovery of DNA. Every contemporary genetic study further validates the prophetic accuracy of God's regulations regarding consanguineous marriages. Amazing how science confirms the Bible, isn't it? Share your opinion about this in the comments. God, in His infinite wisdom, anticipated these problems and established legal protections to preserve the health of His people and maintain the purity of the messianic lineage that would bring forth the Savior. Divine prevention demonstrates a paternal love that protects His children from unnecessary suffering through precise guidance. The laws were not arbitrary, but founded on scientific knowledge that humanity would take millennia to discover on its own. Want to learn more about how the Bible anticipates scientific discoveries? Turn on notifications so you won't miss our next videos. Divine progressive revelation. Understand, God did not contradict His laws. He adapted them to the evolving circumstances of humanity. The Almighty remains unchanging, but He reveals His will progressively according to the spiritual maturity of His people. This divine adaptation demonstrates pedagogical wisdom that considers human capacity for understanding and obedience in different historical eras. Each successive revelation built upon previous foundations, gradually expanding human understanding of God's nature and will. The progression does not indicate change in God, but growth in humanity to receive deeper truths and greater responsibilities. If you understand how God teaches progressively, share this knowledge with someone who needs to know. This gradual revelation led from simple to complex regulations, culminating in the ultimate revelation through Jesus Christ, the incarnate Word. Each dispensation prepared the way for the next, creating a perfect mosaic of divine truth revealed throughout history. The plan of salvation unfolds through this progression, showing how each stage was necessary to prepare humanity for final redemption. Leave a comment. Can you see this progressive plan of God in history? The destiny of Cain. Judgment and mercy. Even after murdering Abel, God did not completely abandon Cain. He placed a protective mark on him, declaring, "Whoever kills Cain will suffer vengeance sevenfold." Genesis 4:15. This divine protection granted him the opportunity for repentance. Paradoxically, from Cain's lineage came the first musicians, blacksmiths, and shepherds. Genesis 4:20-22, demonstrating sparks of civilization even amidst wickedness. The mark of Cain was not only physical protection, but a symbol of divine patience that offers chances of redemption even to the worst sinners. The preservation of his life allowed for significant cultural contributions that benefited all subsequent humanity. Incredible how God can bring good out of evil, isn't it? Leave a like if that touched you. Cain's descendants, though marked by violence and corruption, also produced technological and artistic innovations that propelled early human development. This duality shows how divine grace operates even through problematic lineages, drawing progress and beauty from imperfect situations. The contrast between moral wickedness and cultural creativity in Cain's family illustrates the complexity of the post-fall human condition. Subscribe to the channel to discover more about how God works through imperfect situations. The final truth that changes everything, revolutionary conclusion. All human beings make up one single family, descendants of Adam and Eve. This fundamental truth establishes that we are equal before God, equally in need of His grace and salvation. Marriage between siblings was initially necessary to fulfill the divine purpose of populating the earth, but was later forbidden to protect human health, as the genetic code deteriorated due to sin. This historical transition demonstrates God's adaptive wisdom that changes methods without altering eternal purposes. The divine flexibility in specific regulations contrasts with the immutability of His fundamental principles of love, justice, and redemption. Comment below if this explanation clarified your doubts about the apparent biblical contradictions. This biblical revelation destroys racist theories, confirms human unity, and demonstrates divine wisdom in adapting his laws to the historical needs of his people. The common origin eliminates any basis for racial supremacy or ethnic discrimination, establishing universal brotherhood as both a scientific and spiritual foundation. Every human being shares not only biological ancestry, but also the same spiritual potential for relationship with the Creator. If you see how this truth combats racism, share this video to spread this transformative message. Transformative impact for your life. This biblical revelation destroys racist theories, confirms human unity, and demonstrates divine wisdom in adapting his laws to the historical needs of his people. Proper understanding of these principles transforms our perspective on relationships, family, and social responsibility toward all human beings. Recognizing our common origin should eliminate prejudice and promote genuine brotherly love among all ethnicities and cultures. What is the greatest impact of this revelation on your life? Tell us in the comments. Now you know the complete truth. Cain's wife was not a mystery. She was simply his sister, part of the perfect divine plan to establish humanity. This understanding frees us from unnecessary speculations and confirms the absolute coherence of the Holy Scriptures in every aspect. Knowledge of biblical truth should lead us to greater reverence for God's plan and greater compassion for our universal human family. If this video transformed your understanding, show your support with a super like and share it with everyone who needs to know this truth. Until the next video, may God be with you.